So today I am sharing from the Tanya, chapter 8. The Hebrew letters are also considered concepts. Like if you think about it, the Aleph is the Alpha, the Beis is a house, bias. The Shlas Mem, which is the final Mem, it's a second Mem, it's like a double letter. This Mem is considered like a mikvah because it's a Mem, like Mayim, closed on all sides. The soul, when it feels unsafe or uncomfortable, can actually leave the body. So that's when we feel beside ourselves or not in control or having an out-of-body experience. And chinuch, which it means like orientation or consecration or really education, from a young age houses the soul effectively in the body, since, as is a known saying, teaching is a preventative psychology. I want to remind anyone that the Tanya was written, it's a few parts, it's written by the Alter Rebbe from his teachings. It's different sections. Like, for example, one section is the holy letters, one section is on tshuva. Tshuva means return. Okay, like returning to yourself. So teaching is preventative psychology, basically. As beliefs refine and concretize and stabilize, the fear of death and the love of life can be more readily observable as the source of the emotional experiencing. For example, a child with less maturation or less experience will not be able to coherently explain or even comprehend the true basis for, irrationally seeming nonsense fears and loves. For example, he loves the toy car, he fears the monsters under his bed, right? And yet, we could say this as we mature, the beliefs become more concretized, refined, and stabilized. We want to live, we love life, and we fear death. That's really the basis. But we're not supposed to fear death, actually. That's the work, right? So, and I want to make a side comment. I heard a woman once saying to think of death as like this lady that comes to hold your hand to the next part. She said, we don't really know that much about life and death because we're in the container of life. It's like someone saying, how could we study the mind? We're in the mind. And it is very hard to be subjective when we're doing research on the mind because we are using our mind to do so. So as we use our life to observe life, we don't know, we're not observing life in a vacuum. We're not able to be objective. So for example, we can't say whether if death is so scary and life is so lovable. Like, okay. Continuing. So talking to ourselves, like, I want to go to the store or I feel like eating bread, is of the category of speech, which is necessary intermediate for action and thought to be connected. It's called mindfulness, awareness, consciousness. It's actually like, you don't have to literally say it out loud, but you have to say it. It can't just be your thoughts. It has to be a level of speech. Verbalizing just to get energy out isn't really speaking, though. It's more of an action. So vocalizing perhaps of leftover emotions, ideas needing to be released versus speaking as a direct, purposeful communication. So we could say vocalizing when someone's just like talking, and they're not even really speaking about anything. We'd say that's different than actual coherent speaking. Because actual speaking, perhaps like we could think of it as first person communication, it opens up potentials. Saying, I'm ready to start exercising opens endless, infinite avenues of possibilities of combined aspects resulting in the action of exercise, which can be where you're doing anything, anywhere. It's not specific until it's manifested. Only after the accomplishment is it observable in its details from hindsight. Wisdom can be seen as experience becoming one with the experiencer, becoming one with the experience. Understanding can be seen as being able to apply particulars exactly, precisely. Knowledge is sense information of what is now like being. So in other words, knowledge is to know something, is really to sense information. So that's what I wanted to share on the Tanya. And thinking for myself, like practicing this. What do I want more of and why? And verbalizing it, right? So in order to make endless possibilities, avenues of potentials. Patience, so I could slow down, be present and feel satisfied, enjoy the good parts too. Plentiful consciousness, looking for the riches and offerings of the flowing stream of available blessings at every moment. Payment as recognition that I'm being appreciated, valued, compensated for all my hard work and past efforts and sacrifices. Feeling beautiful so I can not compare, be jealous or mentally cope by mentally finding ugly in the others, right? Like fault finding is not necessary. When we feel beautiful and we see the beauty, we're not looking to make sure that we're not the ugliest. Like we don't need to make anyone uglier in our perspective. Security in relationships. I feel like I can rest in acceptance, adoration, silliness. So what do I want less of and why? Future tripping, planning ahead, worrying, determining, figuring out, because it doesn't allow me to be present and enjoy what I did not plan or cause, or even all that I did as past me for future me. Like if I can't even enjoy all the hard work I did into planning. Thinking in terms of role and supposed to, and rather than seeing what the moment calls for and trying new things or meeting new versions of myself, observing enhancements in my spontaneous performance. Going to bed late because it means playing catch up during the prime real estate of the morning and even early afternoon time. Avoiding slow mindful exercise where I fully feel the hard work, because that's what ends up being my flexibility, my strength, my sexiness, my healing, and my pleasure. And I want to share living in or not in my desire. So desire satisfied, to read and learn and dance and sing and earn a little money and meet men in a safe way, join people for meals and celebrations as a guest, a clean house, company where I don't have to sell out, creative ways to express myself, verbally, non-verbally, standing up for myself if I feel hurt or violated, not a slave to feeling false or more pleasure. Don't have to drive, don't shave or remove hair except on my face, being around spiritual conscious people in the neighborhood, learning to cook, going on adventures, a safe, peaceful, quiet home, parking, the park I have for parking, park for nature, space as needed, desires, and I want to say that not all of these are currently satisfied. That's from when the time I wrote it. Desires unsatisfied, teaching with recognition, teaching with recognition, willing students who respect me, abundance of money and vacations, being driven around as needed, body health and wellness without pain, hairiness that makes me feel unsexy when I pay attention to it or let it grow, no one to desire or flatter me, soothe me, comfort me, reassure me, no husband, not married, so can't be sexual in a relationship, shame in the community for hosting a non-Jewish uncircumcised man after he was shot, his name was Michael, wanting a child, not feeling fit and shaped the way that I remember, not having close friends with an intimacy and a kind, loving, generous family, that I don't feel precious or cherished. And one last area I want to talk about is highest rectification. So the Baal Shem Tov, and this is like, obviously, so Baal Shem Tov started the Hasidic movement, and there were pious people before that. Hasid means pious, but he was the one who made a movement of it. So he says the prism of the water bubble of the mirror of the mind reflects the outside world. What we rectify in ourselves, even just the splinter of a remnant from the past, is to heal the wound that can be infested and affect the interpretations for outside. The frequency no longer matches what could be, the wavelength frequency no longer matches what could be giving attention, internalizing, interacting with that element or pattern, being in flow versus having an attachment. So how do we know whether we're in that? Is if you find yourself judging someone versus compassion. So if we're affected by it and it's infecting us versus and judgment wants to come live in us versus if we're able to just be a witness and know what it's like. Then there's this energy of Lily. She's called Lilith. I'm calling her that only because to identify her properly. She's often called the queen, the mother, the queen of the demons, or Adam's first wife. That energy is how she was the first Chava, who Adam wasn't ready for. She was rejected despite being made for him. She went off sharing herself out, lonely, anguished, despair of being undesired and unloved. She didn't have anyone else in the world she was a perfect fit for. So the demonic energy of pathologized love, dissatisfied sufferings came out of her unions with another. And then Cain. So Cain says, Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother because his offering wasn't accepted, and Abel's was. He didn't realize he wasn't giving his best. He worried about the design on the outside and that it should look nice, but didn't give from his real whole self from the inside, with faith that Hashem would know and appreciate the efforts and devotion more than how the finished project appears. And he didn't do his best with what he had available. So I'll stop with that and wish you a blessed day. Bye.